little cheetah. The reason that we can touch this one while it's awake is because it's an educational animal, so they use it for education in the area because a lot of the locals don't see these animals as a treasure. They see them as a nuisance, and so this is an educational animal that's used to teach kids that they need to conserve the nature that's around them rather than see them as a problem. So, all right. So this is me. I just graduated, like I said. We'll kind of talk a little bit about the school side of stuff, since that's what I'm primarily here to talk about today, other than just grossing you out with cool pictures. So as far as high school goes, getting into undergrad, I'm sure a lot of you are juniors and seniors, so you're starting to think about that. Hopefully you are if you haven't already. And one of the most important things I would say is just to get into whatever you guys are interested in. And the majority of people are going to change what they want to do. You don't have to know today what you're going to do for the rest of your life. By no means does anyone expect that of you. But if you have an interest in some kind of health career, it's important to get into those programs now. So academics is obviously a really important part of any kind of science-based career. So whether you're going to be a doctor or a nurse or whatever the case is, you got to kind of have at least a little bit of an interest in the school part of things. You don't have to be a straight A student. You don't have to have a 4.0. And if you don't, there are a lot of things that you can do to help strengthen your academics and your resume otherwise if school isn't your best quality. I certainly by no means was a 4.0 student. I didn't get straight A's, and I was still able to go through everything we just studied. So, but I made up with it with my extracurriculars, my involvement, networking. Those things are all really, really important, especially in these careers. Networking in another class is probably one of the most important things because who you know can make a huge difference. So getting out into whatever field you guys are interested in, whatever it is really important. So go and talk to people like this summer when you guys are not in school. Go and talk to someone who is a veterinarian or who is whatever you guys want to do. A lot of the clinics in town, whether it's an eye clinic or a veterinary clinic or a physical therapy office, are more than happy to have students come and shadow. It gives you guys an idea of what you're going to be like on a day-to-day basis and whether or not that's even really what you want to do. There are a lot of people, especially in my field, where they think they want to be a veterinarian because they love animals, and then the second they watch a surgery, they hit the ground because they can't do blood. That's a really important thing to know, and you don't want to get halfway through school and then realize that you can't handle whatever portion of that career is. So it's really important to get out there and get some experience, start working with people who do what you want to do, and decide, one, if that's what you want to do, and two, let them get to know you, because eventually you're going to need those recommendations and you're going to need that networking capability, and it will serve you really, really well if you have people that are already kind of in your corner and willing to vouch for you. So it can be a really, really important thing. The other thing is just to be involved in school at this point. It doesn't matter what you guys do, whatever you're interested in is perfectly fine. But you want to, if you're into sports, do that. It's a great way to get scholarships and help get some financial aid as far as continuing on. The other thing is just being involved in extracurriculars. I was in a whole bunch of different stuff, and a lot of it had nothing to do with what I ended up doing. But it was really important to get those leadership capabilities, because you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to kind of roll with things, and being in a lot of those activities can help you do that. So I would say for right now, for you guys, those are probably the most important things. And then just find a school that you think you like, one that you enjoy, one that has programs that you're actually interested in. I see a lot of my friends went to schools that they knew they were interested in something, but the school didn't even have that program. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense if you want to do nursing and you go to a school that doesn't even offer a nursing program. So just kind of be prepared for what you guys think you want to do, even if it changes. That's perfectly fine. There are a lot of really good community colleges in this area, so if you don't know, there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of people that were in my vet school class that got there 1,000 different ways. So do whatever works for you guys, but kind of try to start making a plan now because you want to expedite it. Which brings me to the next portion of school is expensive, so you have to kind of be prepared for that. It's incredibly expensive to go through any kind of professional program, most of the time because you have to do all of your undergrad stuff first, and then you go to professional school. So it takes a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of commitment. So that's stuff you guys need to be thinking about now, stuff you need to talk to your parents about now. If they're going to help you with school, it's things you need to start thinking about as far as scholarships. Now, all of the scholarships out there are scholarships based solely on academics. There's plenty of scholarships. I mean, when I went to school, I got a scholarship for chicken science. I I'm not a chicken doctor today, but I got a scholarship and I was able to subsidize some of my books because I showed an interest in stuff. So it's you don't have to just look for one thing. So there's lots of different stuff out there. So I encourage you to kind of explore that. Veterinary school, 4 years after your undergrad. So you do 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of veterinary school, 8 years total. It's a lot of school. It's a lot of time. And it's a lot of money. Veterinary school is twice as expensive as undergrad. I was telling the other class, my average for my veterinary school class, graduating for just veterinary school, didn't account for any of the undergraduate loans that you accrue, was close to $155,000. So when you add in what the kind of general course load or debt load for undergrad is, you're looking at just shy of $200,000 to get through the entire program. Med school is probably pretty similar to that. Dental school as well. So a lot of the doctor professions, that's probably about what you're looking at. If you're going into more of a technical program, nursing, those are a little bit more reasonable, but they're still very expensive. You know, I have friends who's an ultrasound tech, and she spent about $80,000 going through all of her prereqs and then going through all of her technical training. So it's still really expensive no matter what you decide to do, unfortunately. But usually the pay will compensate well enough to make up for it. You just kind of have to be smart about it. So on average, I would say in this area, veterinarian is going to make, you know, if you're just an associate, you're not a clinic owner or anything like that, it's probably going to make somewhere between, you know, probably like 70, I would say, is probably a good estimate, 70 to 75, at least kind of towards the beginning. And as you mature through your career, obviously you get pay increases as you go. If you're a clinic owner, practice owner, you're going to make significantly more, probably closer to the $130,000 range, depending on the size of your clinic, you know, how successful you are, those types of things. There's a lot of different factors. But you also take on a lot more responsibility. So there's definitely a lot to consider as far as the financial, you know, burden with school and everything. But it's certainly worth it if that's what you want to do. I love what I do, and I wouldn't take it back. My student loan payments are awful, but we get through it, and I'm, you know, doing just fine. So it's one of the unfortunately necessary evils of everything. So, right. So I have a whole bunch of pictures, but I'm going to answer questions first from you guys, from anyone who has questions about the school part of it, how you get in, you know, how much it sucks, anything you guys have questions about. So, yeah.
Is veterinary school hard to get into, or is
It is. So it's really competitive. You know, most of the medical professions are going to be competitive. It kind of just depends. So the reason veterinary school is really hard to get into, obviously, you got to have a decent resume going into it. But unlike medical schools, dental schools, things like that, there's only 29 veterinary schools in the country. There are hundreds of medical schools. So as far as room, there just isn't a lot of space for veterinarians. So that's probably the reason that it's the hardest to get into, is just because there's not that many slots available. You know, as far as, you know, how competitive it is for veterinary school versus med school, the requirements are generally the same. You know, the same GPAs, the same kind of extracurriculars are all expected across the board. It's just how many slots are available. So I would say on average, veterinary classes are about 100 students, so that's you're looking at just shy of 3,000 veterinarians entering veterinary school every year. There are probably 3 or 4 times that many doctors entering med school every year. So that's why it's so competitive. So yeah, it's competitive, it's tough to get into, but it's certainly nothing that you can't do. You know, there are plenty of people that were in my class that had to apply a couple of times to get in. And in the meantime, they worked in the field. They were veterinary technicians, they shadowed, they did other jobs that were totally different, you know, and kind of work your way in. It's just one of those things where you kind of have to roll with the punches and just see how it works out for you. I would say that most people will get in on their first try. Then there's a pretty decent portion that will get in on their second try. So, you know, it's about a year separation between there, but there's nothing that you can't do in the meantime. You know, you can do a lot of stuff to, you know, increase your experience,